Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far, and thanks so much for popping by to hang out with me for another art video. Today's video isn't really a tutorial, but I am going to be sharing my thoughts and kind of the process that I have been following in order to complete these smaller acrylic paintings. For those of you that don't know, I usually love painting with oils, and most of the artwork that I sell and the commissions that I create are in oils. But lately, I have been exploring acrylics in order to have more artwork to upload onto my new Etsy shop, because otherwise, with my local and national art commissions, as well as with my online and local art classes, it's going to be very hard for me to be able to fill up my Etsy shop with oil paintings that take so long to dry. So I am just quite honestly looking for a practical way in which I can keep creating original artwork and have new things to sell continuously, which can be kind of difficult right now that I'm juggling so many things as I'm trying to build my art business. Alright you guys, so before getting started with talking about my process, a couple of things. I want to send out a huge welcome to all you new people just visiting my channel for the very first time. Consider subscribing because every single Friday I share a new video with art tips, drawing and painting tutorials, and encouragement for aspiring artists. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to click on that little notification bell so that YouTube can let you know whenever I publish a new video. And one more thing, just so you're aware of why I have these band-aids on my arm. I try to crop the frame on these movie clips, but you're probably going to be able to see it from time to time. So my cat attacked me the other night, and I have my arm pretty badly scratched up, and I mean it's pretty bad. Like I have had cats my entire life, and I have had cats scratch me before, but this is pretty bad. And so I am trying to take care of my wounds as best as possible so that I can avoid as much scarring as I can. Late last Sunday night, I was working and I was home alone, and all of a sudden I started hearing this kind of movement in my front door, kind of like a gentle banging. And I went downstairs immediately. I was pretty nervous about it too, because here in Mexico where I live, house robberies are pretty common, unfortunately. And then I learned that it was my cat kind of swatting her own reflection on these reflective kind of glass sections on my front door, and she was going nuts. It had never happened before, but I tried to go down and calm her down, and let me tell you, it was a huge mistake. Okay, so after that little quick story time, I'm going to now get into my acrylic painting process for this piece. To begin with the supplies, this painting was created on a 14 by 11 inch canvas board. The paint that I used were 6 different colors from Chroma A2 light fast heavy bodied acrylics. The specific colors that I used were cobalt blue hue, cadmium red medium, cadmium yellow medium, olive green, ivory black, and titanium white. For those of you that haven't seen any of my past painting process videos in which I talk about the colors that I used and why I pick those specific colors or how I use colors, I really enjoy using a limited color palette. I really feel that by creating my own color mixtures, by using one same base of limited colors, my paintings look a lot more cohesive at the end. Color is such an important part of making a composition look harmonious, which is why it's a pretty bad idea to just go about a painting process randomly picking colors. And in terms of my paintbrushes, I used 2 Filberts. They are sizes 18 and 16. And I am really loving using Filbert brushes for acrylic painting. When I paint with oils, I usually like using flats. I really enjoy using a limited amount of paintbrushes as well, whether I'm painting with oils or acrylics or even watercolors. And I really have come to love using a kind of mid-range size for my paintings and not going way too small, as this allows me to stay expressive with my brushstrokes and a little bit loose and not get too fussy about small details. This is the style that I'm personally going for. I love creating visible brush strokes, I love texture, and I also love creating a bit of a graphic quality, a little bit of a stylization in terms of manipulation of color and other elements of art so that I can really bring myself and my own style into the piece. Alright, so let's get started with what I have been doing to prepare for these smaller acrylic paintings. So to begin, I collect my reference images. Sometimes these images are from my own original art reference library. Other times I use high quality photographs made available for free. There are many of these types of websites online through which you can download high quality photographs that you won't get into trouble for using. And other times, what I use as references for my artworks are a combination of my own photos, a combination of my photo with a photo from somebody else, or a combination of other people's photos. Whenever I'm not actually preparing a photo shoot for myself with my own arrangement of objects, or whenever I am not using my own photographs, I always make sure to modify and manipulate different elements in order to make them my own as much as I possibly can. For example, this painting that you're watching me work on right now was created out of a combination of two different photos that I heavily manipulated. And I highly recommend you do this, especially when you're using other people's photos, because when you use a photograph taken by a photographer, that composition was previously created by somebody else. And by at least manipulating existing images into your own composition, you're at least developing that artistic eye for what looks good. Compositional arrangement is such an important part of creating or designing an art piece, and it's very useful to start exercising your eye for what looks good as soon as you possibly can. Artists who have a great eye for composition are able to create very visually striking, harmonious-looking paintings using common objects. On the other hand, artists who don't know much about compositional design or compositional arrangement may end up creating an ineffective piece even though the subject on hand is actually in itself very interesting to look at. Something I always like doing when I'm preparing for a painting, and I have shared this before in another painting video, is I open up a new file in Photoshop in the exact size that my substrate that I'm painting on is, whether I'm painting on a stretched canvas or a canvas board or even a piece of paper. So for this one, if my canvas board is 14 by 11 inches, then I create a file in Photoshop exactly in this size, so that I'm sure that the reference image that I'm looking at has exactly these same proportions, but is at scale, if that makes any sense. As I'm creating my reference image for my paintings, I play around with the different elements, I move them around in the space, I think of adding new elements, subtracting elements, modifying things, and all of this until I come up with something that I like. Once I have my reference image prepped, I basically create my freehand preliminary sketch on my canvas board or my stretched canvas or whatever it is I'm using, and then I move on to preparing my colors based on what I see in the image. Sometimes I decide to change colors in my reference completely. Like for example in this one, the tablecloth in which the coffee and the croissant are on, in my reference image is actually black. And I knew since the beginning that I wanted to make that tablecloth blue. What I did for the browns is instead of using a ready-made brown, I created my own by mixing together the three primary colors. I created different browns by shifting and modifying ratios of blue, yellow, and red within my brown mixtures. And I held off with adding white to my brown mixtures until I absolutely had to in order to create those lighter values of brown. So I have already mentioned before that I like attacking the darkest areas of my paintings first and moving towards the lights. At least this is the case when I am working with oils and acrylics. One of the reasons why this is because once white is added into a paint mixture, it makes the color milky. It takes away from the vibrancy of the colors. And once the white is added in, you cannot really go back to the vibrancy that the color once had. And this can be a problem, especially when we're painting with oils, because since paint dries so slowly, it's very easy to overblend and create muddy colors. When I'm painting with acrylics, it's not as bad because the paint layer dries and then you can simply paint on top or correct whatever you need to correct. But I still have the same methodology when I paint with acrylics. And another reason why I really like starting out with the darkest darks and work my way to the lightest lights is because this really allows me to develop a wide range of values within my painting. And of course, this isn't to say that I don't go back later and correct certain things and move back to the midtones and sometimes even make things darker and whatnot, but this at least gives me a general methodology to follow. And of course, there are special situations like with this painting. The plates and the spoon in this painting are gray. And so I really needed to create a black and white mixture since the very beginning, and I had no way around that. However, if you go back to the beginning of this video, you're going to be able to see that even with the gray mixtures, I made sure to work my way from darkest grays to lightest grays. And you're going to see that I have that same process of working from darks to lights in the flowers as well, both in the little circles of the inner part of the flower as well as in the petals. But yeah, that's just the general process that I follow, kind of in a nutshell. And of course, I'm making sure to constantly look at my reference picture throughout the painting process. If you guys would be interested in me explaining things more in detail, or you have any specific questions, do let me know and I'd be happy to create another video on this topic. For now, I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of this time lapse. Alright, you guys, that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you got something from it. This piece will be up for sale over at my brand new Etsy shop in case you're interested in grabbing it for yourself. I'd be incredibly happy to send it to you personally. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys have any questions at all, and I'd be super happy to answer them. I'd be incredibly appreciative if you gave my video a like because it helps my content get in front of more people. Don't forget to subscribe so I can see you next Friday. Thank you so much for watching and talk to you soon.